NDAs, there's water. Apologize, I didn't do a good job with healthier refreshments, but I was trying for time. So, my name is Jason Green. I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer of Refuge. I think everybody knows why we're here, so fully understand that this is meant to be a town hall setting, meant to be a forum. The end of the day is that, in my mind, is that if you've got concerns about something, you don't have a forum to understand whether those concerns are meritorious, whether they're valid, whether they're not valid, or even just have dialogue, then it's difficult. So what I want everybody to know here is that I'm a firm believer in free speech. That's why we're here. So say whatever you want. You can say anything you want. I would hope that we're going to be respectful about things, which means that even if you're emotional about it, bring it. It's okay. I'm here for it. We have nothing to hide. I have nothing to hide. So we'll talk honestly and transparently about everything. We're more than happy to provide follow-up information to everybody. The goal here is that this is meant to be a community town hall for exactly that purpose. What we're going to do is we've got Rachel Witherspoon has a microphone. I'd like to just kind of give a little bit of maybe some ground rules just so that we're all getting heard. And it may be that only one person has something to say. It may be that somebody or folks here really just want to take a nap and maybe talk for a while, and we could do that. Maybe that everybody has something to say. The end of the day is we'll begin with the premise that there are going to be a number of folks that have things they want to discuss, and we've got to explain those. I've been in tech for a long period of time. A little bit of background on me: I'm a former high school teacher. I've spent a lot of time doing community-based work. That should mean nothing in terms of this project, other than I've got sensitivity in terms of what education means. So I'll give one piece of background here. I do this every day. Meaning data center infrastructure, IT, computers, things like that. I've been doing this for 25 plus years. I'm empathetic to the fact that many of you may not do anything. So from that realm is that we've got to explain things. So basically, take some time. If you don't understand something, just go, hey, I don't get it. You're like, hey, I heard what you said, it made absolutely no sense, they can say it again. And so if we're not walking out of here where there's a scenario where we don't have to agree with each other, but you're not getting the information you want, then I failed in that regard. So the goal here is to be here from a knowledge base. Okay? So before we go into ground rules, I'm going to give just a little bit of background on Refuge, so I can just give an understanding as to what the company is and what we do. And then we'll talk about how we get everybody engaged, and there's no form beyond that. There is a slide deck, there is some slick presentation. I'm not reading off cue cards. I don't prepare anything, honestly. And if I was that good that I could memorize all this, then I wouldn't be here. So this is meant to be dynamic, it's meant to be engaged when it's supposed to be. So what is Refuge? Refuge is a data center developer and operator. Data centers are buildings where computers live. So for lack of a better term, it's basically public storage for computers. Not public because anybody can put their computer there, but for businesses that need to put their computers in a specific location, they have to go in a very specific building. Those buildings require power, they require some form of air conditioning, and then they require other dimensional aspects of them to operate and function properly. That's what a data center is. You probably don't know you have data centers all throughout the region that's here. You're in the greater Detroit all the way through Ann Arbor region. There's 4.4 million people in this region. You have a number of data centers. They've been here for a long period of time. Some are private. Some are what's called public, means that they do the ones that we, they live the ones that we function. Where basically they're built and any company can come and put their infrastructure there. When we talk about infrastructure, we talk about computers. So in the world in which we live, whether we like it or not, technology is driving so much. And I'll ask the question, you don't have to share by a show of hands, but if you did, I'd be interested. Anybody here not on a cell phone? Well, then you're wildly connected. And everything you do is part of that internet ecosystem, if you will, that technology ecosystem. Without data centers, none of that functions. Doesn't mean you have to like it. Doesn't mean you have to go home and be like, no, I need to buy a data center t-shirt. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that by definition, the things that you do every day require some form of a data center somewhere to function. Do you pay your bills online? Do you receive any notices via email? Do you use email? Do you watch TV from a streaming service? It all requires a data center. So it doesn't mean the data center needs to be here. We'll talk through why here. It doesn't have to be here. You guys can tell me we don't want it. Jason Lee, never come back. It's fine. And I understand. And you're not going to hurt my feelings in that regard. But I think it's part of the discourse, part of the dialogue, is in this company what we do is we build these buildings. We enable that technology to exist, and we operate them. There isn't anything more complicated than that. The companies that are our customers are names that you know. I don't mention those out loud, we have NDAs in place, but they're companies that you all know by name all day long. They need places to put that computer equipment. Our job is to go and build those and develop those.
Did you say there's NDAs in place?
We have NDAs with our customers, yes.
Oh,
We have to.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, every single engagement
That's a
that I have.
non-disclosure.
Non-disclosure,
Right?
yes, my apologies, non-disclosure, exactly. And there's reasons for that. So, one thing that you may not know is that the way the internet functions is there's all these different, what we call nodes. There's all these areas where equipment that Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and companies you've never heard of, they put equipment that makes the internet function. The maps that show where all those fibers and all that conduit goes, in some cases it's national security. Because if they're known where they go, that could be a bad thing, that's why we have NDAs. So there's gotta be some governance around it. So what does RAID do? So we go through and we have a large repository of assets that we're familiar with and some that we don't know about. Our customers may say things like, hey, we've got a real need to deliver more of our services to the greater Detroit region. Can you RAID and go find us a suitable place where we can go build a building? So we go look. Now what I will tell you is that RAID has been in your market, in your region for more than 5 years. It was on the board here. We have a partnership with Bedrock. We've worked in Detroit, we've delivered assets in the town of Detroit, the city of Detroit, that have enhanced internet service. We've worked with partners to help some of their buildings function, yes, ma'am.
So you're the middleman?
In a way, yes, yeah, that's a fair statement, yeah, I'm a janitor.
So I have to say it.
Yeah.
I'm sure most people are thinking it. Why does there need to be protections for this faceless being and you're just the middleman? Because that tells me no accountability.
Well, it's a good question. So the end of the day is that the customers are putting data and information there that has very specific usages. Your data, by the way, let's say that it's HIPAA information for your medical information. No one should know where your medical data is stored. It's not allowed. So when you look at these companies, that we're not talking about proprietary information to go play a video game online. We're talking about information that has a lot of different aspects of use. And these companies have to have protections, otherwise then they're vulnerable. So they're vulnerable to cyber attacks. They're vulnerable to things where the internet can be a wildly challenging place. So they have to be protected. If it's known, I'll give you the example. Are you familiar with the AT&T data center that had a gentleman drive a car into it, and it was either Nashville or Memphis, Tennessee a couple of years ago, and took out all the internet in the southwest, or southeast. That's because that building's known. That's not a good thing.
So you're putting up something that's going to be a carrier copy?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. So the end of the day is that companies need to have protections as to where their computers are. It's expensive. There's a lot of equipment that goes into an AT&T one because you need the internet.
They of course are
The
military.
internet's not living. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm having trouble hearing you. You're talking really fast to me.
Okay, I apologize.
And if you face the mic a little closer, is this on?
You want it closer this way? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a tone in your voice that I can't hear.
I appreciate that, sir.
Anyway, that's not my, what I would like to say is, whoa.
You don't need both.
You hear all the time of data breaches in banks and everywhere else that is supposed to be secure. And you say this is gonna be secure. How can it be guaranteed that this will be secure? You've got people hacking all the time in computer systems.
It's a very good question. So here's layers, right? So what we're going to talk about is that a data center is the infrastructure side. This is that better? Too loud? Can you hear okay? Okay. So the data center itself is a building. It's got power to it. It's got air conditioning. And then the customer goes and installs their computer equipment. They are responsible for managing that equipment. So what we typically call, the term is a server. So think of just a home-based computer that you would typically use, a laptop of some kind. This is the commercial version. It's the big version of that. So in these buildings, these. Can you hear me if I just talk to you like that?
No.
I know.
You can't in the back? Okay, sorry. We're going to try to make this. Does that still project or no? Or is it just static?
It's in and out.
It's in and out? We're gonna try to do our best. So the computers that are inside of these buildings, they're operated by a business. So it's Google, it's Meta, it's Microsoft, and many other companies. They're managing their own computers. The data breaches that you're talking about are not physical. There isn't someone who walks in there and goes into one of these buildings and commits a heinous act, and then there's a breach. It's all over the internet. Those companies, they put their own processes, their own securities, their own layers in place to protect your data. If they have a breach, then there's been a problem with their systems. What we do is we're literally like janitors. We build the building, we operate the building so that the computers have an ideal state to work in. They need they need power, they need cooling, they need an environment that is a clean space to function. That's what we're doing. The operations inside of the building, in terms of the actual computers, that's dependent upon the individual customer.
Yeah, so how can you protect that? You can't protect
It's not our responsibility ultimately.
it. In other words, we don't have security.
Well, keep in mind, the services that are operating through the data center that we're proposing here could be any one of a number of different types of services that may not even be direct to you. So, your bank, for example, is not our customer. Your healthcare system is not our customer.
I know, but what this entails is going to open us up to this kind of thing.
Actually, it doesn't. So it's a really good question. So you are not exposed by a single data center in your area that may have some form of a breach. And by the way, one data center isn't the central location of all of this service. So like if you ever use a Google Maps, for example, there isn't one data center that makes Google Maps work. There isn't one data center that makes Alexa work. These are multiple data centers all over the United States that all come together to deliver a service. So in the event that one of those facilities was compromised, even one, the rest of them are going to protect the overall service. So you're not isolated where in this area, something that would be operating out of that data center represents any inherent risk to your use of the internet.
Yeah, but it is still subjected to that, even though it would be by itself.
Every-
Whatever's in there will be subjected to it.
Every data center is, so that
So what, there is no advantage as far as having security with what's in there.
well, it's a good point. There has to be physical security. So these sites are going to hire a number of jobs that are required to provide physical security services. Regular people, unless you're authorized, can't go in a data center because you could create problems. So from a physical security perspective, we need to hire a number of jobs that are going to entail keeping track of the people that come in and out, whether they're vendors or otherwise, or just the regular public. It's got to be a secure facility. So physically, we're making sure that no one is going to physically compromise the facility. On the cyber side, that's,
Are these local residents that's gonna be hired?
we don't hire from outside the area.
Okay.
So it does, so as one of the slides shows here, we're gonna hire at full build between 60 and 100 full-time jobs.
For how long?
Exactly.
For how long? The contracts are 15 plus years for this building. And just so you know our charter with the state of Michigan, the minimum paying job has to pay $77,000 a year. The minimum paying job,
How many did you say it's going to?
60 to 100.
And what positions will those be?
So,
Excuse me.
yes sir, go ahead.
Talking about creating jobs.
Yes,
What
sir.
about the impact to that housing value of the unit?
Yes.
What does it do to the value of our houses having this center in our backyard?
It's a really,
Let's see how honest you are right now.
sure, so it's a really good question. There are a number of data centers all over the world, but innumerable ones in the United States, and no one is aware that they even live there. And so I'll give you, hold on.
15% decrease in value almost immediately.
No, so I'll actually contrast you. Let's look at the largest,
Right now, Google it.
let's look at the largest data center concentration in the United States. Are you familiar with where that's at? Sir?
Virginia.
Virginia.
Northern Virginia, Loudoun County. That is one of the top 5 richest tax bases in the entire United States. their housing values have all gone up significantly.
Google it,
And-
customer Google, 5 to 15% heat.
So I understand. Yes, sir.
Talking about Loudon, Virginia, so
Yeah.
what, your physical structure, you have to have cooling for the towers, which I
We
assume.
don't have cooling towers, sir.
You don't have cool,
No,
it's
sir.
a closed loop system.
It's a closed loop system.
Okay, so what takes the heat out of the glycol?
So what happened, the way this works is you have chillers.
Yeah,
So we're gonna talk about cooling generation.
well, you have
And we-
heat, you have heat coming out of the glycol with the chiller, has to go that heat has to go somewhere.
It actually goes through the chillers. That's the process of how
I get
it's.
rid of the heat out of the chiller.
It's called-
I do that for a living, I build chillers. So the
Sure.
point is that you either have a water tower, which evaporates the water, gets rid of the heat, or how are you gonna get rid of the heat out of that chiller? The chiller cools the.
So you have a heat transfer inside of the chiller
And where does
itself.
the heat go?
So the heat is then, you build chillers.
Yeah.
So when you have to have a delta T, we'll get technical here. You
Right.
have a change in thermal temperature.
Yeah.
If you're not within that range and returning warm enough water back to that system, then you can't actually have the heat exchange inside of it to create cool.
But heat doesn't just go away, that's law of physics,
Yeah.
thermodynamics. So the heat has to go somewhere, okay? So you say that the water, on your chart there, it says the water goes in, what, 500 gallons or something, it's closed loop and that's it, right?
No. So that there's not 500 gallons that goes in this system. You set a closed loop system up once, and then there is no exposure to ambient air. This is why Microsoft.
There has to be, the heat has to go somewhere. And my point of all this is, that in Loudon, Virginia,
Yep.
they're not only having decrease in real estate, but medical problems because of the noise and the static electricity from the fans, because you have to cool the space as well as the computers inside. So you have to distribute the air somehow. So they're using a fresh air system for their space. I don't know what you're considering.
You do have to use a fresh air system for, you have to have replacement air. You
Okay,
have
so
to have standard replacement air that you're going to use dry coolers for. They're gonna be outside for the ambient space that's inside.
So it's the fans that are causing the problem there. Same thing as with the electrical generating deals, is that there's a static electricity problem and there's a noise problem. And that's within 750 meters is the closest houses that they have in Loudon, Virginia to the existing plants or the existing AI centers. And those people are all having medical problems and they've all had to try to increase the insulation and the sound absorption in their houses to no effect. Okay, so that's my first question.
Sure.
You're talking about Loudon, Virginia. The next question is, how many backup generators is this
Yes.
facility going to have?
Yes.
So backup generators typically are, so let me just go back to Loudon for a
Okay,
minute.
all right.
So,
How many decibels does that go up to?
hold on one second.
No, can we wait till that's done, because I can't hear anything without this phone's going on.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so going back to the whole concept of chillers and noise and things of that nature, and you are making a very valid point, that the lack of master plan in that region ended up with a whole lot of data centers, nearby houses and other communities. You're absolutely right. Hold on one second, we just have to have the phone turn off. One moment.
But you still have to get rid of the heat out of that glycol somehow, or you're gonna have to use water.
Give me one second, we just have to have this phone turn off.
Thank you.
He's very important, so. Okay, so going back to, I think this is a really important lead-in, so if you allow me a little latitude to explain why we looked at this site. Severe technical difficulties.
Maybe step outside.
Turn it off.
Okay, so, good.
You're the computer guy, help me fix his phone.
I didn't ask the timeshare people to call him right now, so I apologize. So,
Take your phone outside.
okay. So, it's a good lead-in. It's a good lead-in to why we looked at this site. So, if I could backtrack a little bit as to how we do site selection. This wasn't a casual occurrence. So, in our business, we probably look at 200 plus sites before we even choose to do diligence on one of them. So we have a whole process by which we review different sites and how they could actually potentially be a data center. This right here is one of the concerns. How close are you to people? How close are you to actual communities and residences, schools and things of that nature? For a couple of reasons. Is that we want to make sure that this is a building unto itself, is one that doesn't need to be plopped into the middle of a community where you have residential right next door. It's not simple. Hold on.
You're within 100 yards.
We're
Where do you bought that property?
within 100 yards of homes.
Yes, you are. Greenland Road.
Directly across the street.
Greenland Road.
It's a lot farther than that.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, it's a lot further
No,
than
it's
100
not.
yards. And so one of the things that we looked at, hold on a second.
We have a brand new bunkhouse directly across the street that's housing temporary employees for the Fish and Wildlife Service.
Okay.
It's opening, like, we just got it, like,
Okay, so.
nobody lives there right now, but they will by the summer.
Okay, so leading up to where we're at now,
Like,
is that over a year-long period, we looked at this site. And part of that diligence goes into a number of criteria that are not what you might think are just opportunistic. So that's easy to say, oh, he's just saying that. No, it's real. We reject a number of sites all the time for a variety of reasons. We looked at this specifically because it's an existing building. It's been for sale for quite some time. No one's interested in buying it. We know that. There is not another steel factory that's going to come and take this over. The state of Michigan is replete with a number of these buildings that no one is taking over. So then we looked at the land site around it. We said to ourselves, honestly, we probably like a little bit more land. But what we see in this building is that it's got what we call a lot of clear height. So there's a lot of space between the ceiling and the ground. It's fairly wide open. It needs a lot of work. But when we looked at where we could put equipment on that site, the fact that there is a Superfund site adjacent to it, that's back on that side, on the back side of that, by a railroad line. We said, you know what, for a lot of reasons, if we were to come in and we were to redevelop this, we're gonna make this new in a way that it wouldn't have another life. And so, when we look at the world in which, hey, you know what, if we have to go knock down a building, that's expensive, that's not great for the environment. If we had to go build a brand new building, that would not be
We
great.
all appreciate that that plan is not gonna be used for anything else.
For sure.
I don't think anybody's got a problem with that. It's the issue is what's gonna go in there.
I understand, but I
Can I
just
ask
want
you
to
about
get.
the generators again?
Yeah, so I'll get to, I'm gonna get to your generators, because it goes to the equipment. So what we look at is, okay, why does this, hold on one second, sir, just give me one second. So what we look at is, what are the resources that are there? And one of these things is we have to install backup generators. We also have to install these chillers, we have to install cooling equipment. Where does that go? We don't want that near a roadway, we don't want that directly adjacent to parts of the building. It's gonna go in specific areas, that also has to do with noise and sound attenuation. So the rules in this area, essentially the legislative regulations to be able to build, means that you cannot have more than 55 decibels of sound past your property line. So when we did our what's called a test fit, which goes back many months before we even contemplated filing any petitions to do anything, we went and looked at a test fit, and we said, okay, where would this equipment go? The generators are there in case the utility service has an issue. If DTE can't provide consistent service for some reason, then we need to have a means to keep all the systems up and running inside the building. So we have backup generators. How often do backup generators run? Well, the feeding substation, I'll get to the numbers, I got you. The feeding substation has a pretty strong history of uptime. That means that we have to test the generators once a month. They run for less than an hour, once a month. What we do in almost any area in which there is any type of concern is we actually say, hey, we'll go to the council meeting. When would you like us to test our generators? We can run them anytime. Invariably, I'll get someone who points at their neighbor and is like, I don't like him, so run him when he needs to sleep. We don't want to do that. So we want to be polite about that. We want to make sure that we're saying, okay, when can we run these? They run once a month. The only other times that they're going to function is if there's an outage. There's a reason why that's beneficial, because we're enrolling in programs in which we're telling DT in the event that there's a lot of stress on their network, that we have generators that'll take stress off that. Just know that for the number of generators, typically the way that they work is that we would size 3 megawatt to 4 megawatt generators. That's the size of that. That's their nameplate. They are configured in what we call redundant configuration. So you have an extra generator for every single number of them that are running. So in the event, if we used 4 megawatts as a number, and we were running a 100 megawatt facility, then we're going to need somewhere on the order of about 30 to 35 generators that are going to be on that site. And that's just what, again, keeps our systems up and running. Now, as part of this, when we go back to the stewardship that you talked about, attenuation, which is the how do I prevent noise from being problematic, is every one of these generators is built with an enclosure around it that is sound rated. The decibel sound rating, or the attenuation, is audited. We actually have to submit for that, and that can be verified. We don't get to go build whatever we want. So we have generators and generator manufacturers that we work with that support hospitals. And they install generators that are what's called prime power. They run all the time at a hospital. Hospital can't have noise. Hospital cannot have rattling and additional anything that's going to be problematic. So there are ways in which that you buy these, and this is what we go into. You buy them so that they're intentionally going to run
Are
properly.
they diesel or natural gas?
These are diesel generators. These are diesel generators. I'm sorry, yes, sir, I apologize. Yes, go ahead.
30 diesel generators running once a month?
Yes.
What's the carbon footprint and the environmental impact of that? on
Great
the
question.
community? And don't say nothing, because I've been a diesel mechanic.
No, it's absolutely not nothing. You're absolutely right. So here's the way that this works. I don't know how familiar any of you are with the state mandated EAGLE program, which is how all of your air quality functions. We are required to submit an entire planning process. It takes a year, 9 months to a year to get approved. They require us to provide the entire site layout. We are required to provide all of the information, what are known as cut sheets, so essentially the design drawings of each one of those generators. We are then required to provide all of our operational plans and programs, and then we're audited on a regular basis. So you're exactly right, is that there is not a reciprocating engine, which is a diesel or a natural gas form of a generator, that doesn't provide some type of release into the environment. However, that has to be under state mandated guidelines. We do not have the luxury of doing anything outside of those guidelines, and that's where that audit compliance comes in. So I'm sorry, go ahead. No worries.
I just got here, a couple things about myself. I am a U of M alumni,
Yep.
public policy,
Sure.
I can't
work
hear
at a
it.
hospital.
I'll get you. Go ahead.
Dan, can you come up a little
Live here
further?
in Gibraltar,
Thank you.
and I've done my research. And what you are telling us, it's all business ended, I get that. Your company has bought into this is your business.
Sure.
However, there was a research project done September this past year. Harvard University. They present a panel of experts for the climate action meeting involved with the Department of Environmental Health and the Center for Climate Health and Global Environment at the T.H. Chan School of Public Health. These are just some of the findings. Infrastructure for AI accounts for 4% of all U.S. electric use. That's a lot. Centers expose 1.2 million people to increased health risk. They create $625 million in additional health care costs. How many people in this room have insurance, and it's good insurance?
not cheap at all.
I'm asking you dollar price, how much do you gauge? for
Well, United Healthcare, I mean, that right there could be upwards of $100.
Put on 100? Try 375 at CVS, when I go to the pharmacy to get this filled. Plus my albuterol, that's another 100.
Sure.
Now, my dad has COPD. I also have a nebulizer when I need it.
Yep.
This, what you're proposing? No, not good for anyone's health. On top of it too, I know Congressman Dingle got that nice international wildlife refuge that we have right across from the house. And put in what you're proposing. That goes against the environment, it goes against health. We don't want it here. How many people in this room are voters? You have both. Right now, I drive to work, that canal water is down on that seawall. When you're using 110 million gallons of water a year for this project,
But I'm not using
that
any
is gonna
water.
lower.
I don't believe that. We have to use water. We have to use water.
Are not really pleased that their boats are stuck in mud.
You know, that's part of the natural cycle
This is
of
a
water.
boating community, it's a hunting community, it's a
That's
wildlife
part of the
community.
natural cycle
You
of water.
have no business being here. You don't
And it's gonna be.
So,
And we hang through the nose for water bills.
so
Too much for water bills.
again, we'll go back to a couple things. So,
You can go back, but the facts speak for themselves.
sure,
You know, he likes to go there and take walks out there.
yes.
And he still can. Yeah, but it's gonna be,
It's not
it's not
good.
gonna be nice.
No, I think that's the key thing. So I appreciate everything that you put forth, and I don't say that lightly. Getting a Harvard study that's put forth, and we can go and check which study that is that there's challenges to making blanket statements. Not all data centers are the same. And the reality is that the way this is being designed and built is meant to avoid the things that you're concerned about, because the things that you're concerned about ultimately cost more money. And if you want to look at this, and she made the statement, it's a very valid one, from a business decision perspective, anything that we do that costs more money makes my investors not all that happy. So when we look at investment into an asset, we talk about how much money needs to be spent into something like this, you have to figure out ways that are going to save dollars. And what that doesn't include is spending more money on water. It doesn't include things like spending more money on water treatment. So when we have water towers, as this gentleman talked about, which over the years we determined are extremely costly and challenging to use to support data centers, this is why you use things like air economization and cooling, and you should be well familiar with that. This is one of the things that we think about in this environment. This isn't the middle of Texas. This isn't Arizona. So free cooling means that we have the ability to just use regular ambient air to help provide an assist to these types of devices. It uses less energy when we do that. That means all of our costs are less. So I understand that. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Hold on one
The
second.
river going through the heat exchangers to get rid of the heat, as per what he was saying.
Yeah,
You
did you
use
ever
water up to
explain that?
450,000 gallons a day of water. Now, what does it do to heat the water and then put it back, even though you're not polluting it, but put heated water back into the river?
We don't have any ties to the river. There's no open system. So-
What do you use for cooling?
No.
So the cooling typically is a combination of water and then some form of glycol. So it's a glycol.
Freeze in a car.
It's a similar way to think about that, but it's non-toxic. So
It never evaporates.
Glycol is not toxic?
no, that loop is not explosive.
Change it.
No.
So where does?
No. So the only time you're exposed is if there was a leak. And so if there was somehow in one of the pipes, there's a leak somewhere, you have to go replace that system. But leaks are only like
Wait, the glycol they're using is not toxic, you could drink it if you wanted.
No. it's not a hazardous
It's not
material.
toxic.
It's not a hazardous material, so it doesn't need
I'm
to be
saying it's the
regulated.
same stuff you put in your motor home
Yeah.
when you want to put it in the winter time, you don't want your tanks to freeze. So being toxic doesn't come up, it's not toxic.
So, the end of the day is that the goal is to keep that system just running unto itself. Well, so you do have to do maintenance on these types of systems, there's no question. That's why you have redundant systems that are there. You're gonna have to do, so when you do maintenance, you're gonna do quarterly and annual maintenance, and it's very limited. So that's when we talk about how much water is actually needed.
By maintenance, you change it, take it out.
You don't take all of it out at all, so you're gonna go actually maintenance on the equipment and the pipes themselves. No, so there's no, you don't have any wastewater disposal.
It's permanent, once you put it in, it's permanent.
You
It's
never,
just gonna run in the cycle.
You're right.
you never purge the system to clean it.
I'm sorry, sir.
No, you don't permanent. You put it in here.
Everybody
Hold
else.
on.
No,
Hold on a second, folks.
How about we change your
Let them have to speak.
I
Gentlemen, speak,
I
please.
came here with a vengeance to defend our community in the waterways.
Sure.
Right? I've been researching this for the last 2 days.
Okay.
I understand that you're using but you defend that you're using 600 gallons a
It's-
day.
yeah.
in closed loop system.
No, the closed is separate. The only water use that we're using are for the staff that's actually working there.
Okay.
It's convenient, so it's bathrooms, washing your hands, drinking water, things of that nature.
So in order to do that with a 100 megawatt center, you're gonna have to use like a true waterless, zero evaporation cooling system, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that is true, they use a glycol water mix, and it circulates continuously, and the maintenance on it is almost endless. There's no maintenance on it at all, all right? My concerns is that to run that megawatt system, you need to use, DTE needs to use 300,000 to 1 million gallons of water a day to cool their systems, all right? I researched that, and but federal standards and EPA and everything else, I call EPA today, and they say that is recycled, and there's under such restrictions that that's recycled and filtered and put back into the river, or where they get it from, as clean water. all right?
On the DT side, you're
On
exactly
the
right.
DTE side.
Correct, they have their own water treatment.
Now, your water that you're going to get for your systems, now, I'm not sure how many of those closed loop systems you're putting in.
This is one
It's
system.
just one
This is
system.
one system.
Okay, but you're pouring water, you're tapping that water into municipal water. You're drawing that water out of municipal water, right?
So what you're talking about is charging the system, which basically day one setup, when we set that
The
up.
water you use, you're getting from the
The initial water is going to have to come from the water allocation to that site, that's correct.
Now, my thing is, once you're up and running,
Correct.
this goes through, all right? And under your, hold on, I've been doing this stuff,
All good.
Thank you.
under your non-disclosure agreements that protect your inside, all that.
Correct.
If you decide to update on the inside, we don't get to know what's going on.
Right.
So if you update on the inside, and cooling towers, no, they don't use a cooling tower. They use fans, whatever suits them, almost like a radiator, continuously.
That's on the inside, so
On the
it's the
inside,
generation
But
is
on
from
the
the
non-disclosure agreement, if you're pouring water, my thing is that if you decide to update, we don't know.
Actually, it's a very good point, so we're not allowed to just arbitrarily use water, the city doesn't allow us to do that. So when we go through with our master plan for this site, we're committing to the total amount of gallons that are needed for that site. We don't then get to just randomly say we're gonna use more water. If we needed to make a change, you guys would all know about it. It has to actually go to the various approving authorities within the city when we petition and say, oh, by the way, the world changed, all of a sudden we need a whole bunch more water. We can't just go make, the NDAs are between us and our customer, just in terms of how we actually function as two businesses. From the technical perspective, we're wildly exposed. We're exposed to you guys. So right now, like all of the operational states of this building are part of all of the planning commission documentation that we have to prepare, that are done by third-party engineers. So that, you get to review that, you can read that.
So, like the city does with us, with our water,
Sure.
we have meters.
Yep.
And there are gonna be meters at your facility.
Absolutely.
All right, so we know that, or the city knows that, how much water you're drawing.
Without question. We don't get to hide, we're very exposed.
Okay, well, I just want to.
No, it's a good question.
I just want to be transparent.
Yeah.
You know what's going on.
Yeah,
And also to the fact that with noise and, your decibels.
correct.
We have, I don't know if you know, but we have American bald eagles nesting. right
Yeah.
now
We do.
In our waterways. Now,
Yes.
I was really upset when I heard that the site was at 2800 Jefferson, which is this lacrosse field site. But there's, the NRL list for the Superfund.
Correct.
All right, goes right around this.
It wraps around the entire property.
And Army Corps of Engineers is supposed to be starting in 26, 27 and starting to clean up this area.
There's been some remediation done, but you're right, there's still work to be done.
Now, when you purge your things and you have waste, where's that waste going to go?
So
Are you gonna have like an on-site, in-house treatment plant, or is it gonna go to?
from the water perspective,
Yeah,
so the water is just like what we call as its convenience use, right? So what you do is there's literally a standard for how much water an employee of just going to the bathroom, washing their hands, how much they use. That's the metric that we're using. That's the same amount of wastewater metric that goes back in. So it's bathroom use, washing use, it's drinking water use. That's the only thing that this facility is generating.
okay, but
And that's
sometimes,
also metered as well.
but sometimes systems, you have blowouts, or there's a leak, you have to blow it out, so the salts that get accumulated can build up, and that's an endanger, so where does that go?
So all of those closed loop systems have filtration that's built into them, because by definition, you don't want to have to take that apart. What you're describing, there's a break or there's a breach, that's a major issue. When I tell you how many data centers that I've operated that we've ever had a loop burst, the answer is 0. So it doesn't happen with any frequency, but we guard against that. So when I say we guard against that, is that we typically have trucks that would come in, because just turning on a faucet isn't gonna make that happen. So we would have water replenishment trucks that would come in, so that we can tap into our system and get more of that cooling medium brought back up to speed in the event that there was a break. If you're talking about the cleanup side of that, this is all highly regulated. So we have to go and we have to report and say, hey, you know, there was a break in this pipe, and we have to show this is what our cleanup is, and this is how we're operating. There's nothing, there's no mystery to that.
Now, your facility that you're using, which has already been like re-sided and everything, and that was full of PCBs and everything
Oh, yeah.
inside that plant.
Yeah.
Now, how are you going to eliminate that and make sure, because there's drainage ditches out alongside that plant that go out into the area.
Just on.
How do you protect that?
Yeah, so basically, the remediation that you're talking about at this site is one of the critical path items. So we're looking at 2 areas of remediation. There's some outbuildings that are on that property that don't need to be there anymore. So for our purposes, we need to take those buildings down. In addition, the inside of the building as well as the facade all needs to be remediated. All of that work is done inside. And what we have to do is hire environmental consultants that we've already hired to go review this. They give us a remediation plan. So I'll give you an example of where I've had to do this before. I've already developed 2 former chip fabs in data centers in my career, and it's the same measure as a steel plant. All kinds of chemicals, all kinds of things that are concerning and challenging. You have to follow very prescriptive rules to go remediate that. And the reason is that the workers that are going to do that, they're all OSHA protected. So this is one of those things you talk about transparency. We would have no problem publishing what that plan looks like and which engineers have validated that. They're all local engineers, by the way, because we don't want to be putting anything outside of that building that doesn't need to be outside of it. What you will see if you go in there, however, we already have exhaustively gone through there, it's really what we call a core and shell now. There's just a single, what's called an annealing line that's there today, and it's basically rolling up steel into these bins, if you will. So you take these long steel plate, you roll it up. That's what's there today. So there isn't fabrication going on. There is not a large number of chemical repositories. It's pretty clean, to be honest with you, over time. We still have work to do. So we do asbestos testing, we do air quality testing, because you're exactly right. If we just willy-nilly thought we could knock things down, that creates a problem. But all of that is capable of being provided. We have nothing to hide.
So your outbuildings that you spoke of.
Correct.
Out away from where you're going to go. Does EPA get involved? I talked to a guy with me at EPA,
Sure.
and she told me that anything out into that, they, Army Corps of Engineers, have to work with you or whatever is going on to make sure that is done in a manner that it doesn't disturb the soil.
It's going on 6:30.
I am not
She'd
liking
stay
what's
for
happening.
10 minutes.
I apologize, that's my fault. Okay, I apologize, man, I'm sorry.
Covered, no pun intended, but it's going on 6:30. We've all got a lot of questions.
Yeah, okay, I apologize, sorry about that.
Before we do this, can everyone stand, because I'm hearing impaired and selfishly I would like to hear what everyone says so I can read your lips.
This is as tall as I get.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Hold on one second, ma'am. See, that's good, we have to go here, we have to go here. This one?
Somebody address the microphone literally.
I'll repeat her question, so go ahead, ma'am, please.
Okay, so a couple of things. You had indicated that these places are all around us, we're just not aware.
Sure,
Some people have brought up some other states, some issues.
Sure.
Can you give us a good reference that are local to us, that some we're not aware, so that we can kind of gauge that, going by that community and how it's impacted that community? I have seen recently, like I caught on to this late in the game because I'm off social media now, but I did notice that there's many cities that have refused you.
refuse us?
Or sites like this, I don't know.
I was gonna say, we have.
Particularly your company, but they have refused.
Sure, this is, we're in a very real stage, so, ma'am, her question?
First year, I can't hear anything.
I'm gonna repeat her question. Can you hear me?
I can hear.
Okay, great. So her question was, I made the comment that there are data centers all around. She wants to know where they are. And she would like to know where there are specific data centers in this overall region, so that anybody here can start to inquire to those communities and say, is it good, is it bad, did you even know it was here, things along those lines. That's what she was asking for. She's asking me to give her an indication of where data centers are throughout the greater Detroit region. Does that make sense? So what I would say is this. There are data centers, there's a couple of resources, and I'd be more than happy to give you the resources, is that there are actually data center map websites that you can log on to, and you can see the exact locations of all of those.
Why don't you have the answer?
Why don't you answer?
Well, hold on, hang on.
You did.
Let him finish.
Hold
I
on.
want to hear the answer.
I am answering her. So you have data centers that are private data centers that are not disclosed, and I don't even know where those are. You have data centers that are what we call the co-location data centers, the ones that we operate, and you've got a handful of those that are in Detroit proper. In the state of Michigan, you have others that are outside of this region. So in terms of exact addresses, they range from very small. We'll talk about the ones that we work on. So 615 West Lafayette in downtown Detroit is a data center that we developed for Bedrock to go and enable the internet to actually function through the city of
How many
Detroit.
gigawatts?
So not comparable, I want apples to apples.
And so
Yeah.
it's a really good question. So
What you're-
yeah, apples to apples in this region, you guys don't have data centers of this size.
Okay.
It's a very good question, yeah. No, I'm telling you that there are data centers all over the place.
Right, but
But in
not
terms of,
apples to apples.
in terms of this scale, we're in a state of this world that, just explain it to
But I
her.
want to know the impact to other communities, so I understand what you're talking about, like, and we all need internet, nobody's denying that.
Sure.
We all understand that the more we're using it, the more we're relying on it, we're creating the problem. We are.
Sure.
And now that we've created the problem with internet, we don't want the problem with internet. So that's
It's,
what we're after.
it's a little bit of a circular
Yeah.
thing, yes.
But we don't want this being the environment that it's at. We
Yes.
have very valid points, we have wildlife, we have housing. This is not conducive, that's why I want apples to apples. I don't want your.
Here's your apples to apples.
Smaller-
I'll give you the one that you can look at. The largest one that fits is the data center that's in Grand Rapids. And so that is Switch Data Centers. You can go
Very
look it up.
comparable to this.
It's way bigger.
Okay.
It's bigger.
And
So it's not
apples
what's
to
being
apples.
So
contemplated.
where,
So
where
We're not happy up there.
relation to Grand Rapids, to any of their, like, how we have it here?
it's actually a very similar project, because I forget the name of the furniture manufacturing company that had a massive manufacturing plant warehouse that was there. And they took over an existing building. And then they took over Steelcase, that's right. I always forget the name, thank you for that. So Steelcase was the owner. They left, And then the data center company came in, and they not only redeveloped that existing site, but they built other data centers in that area.
How long has it been there?
It's been at least 10 years.
Okay, so we can
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, you have a litmus test, absolutely, yes.
Huh? I would imagine not, that's why I wanna look at it, so it's very rare. Yeah.
I'd like to know about the electricity.
Yes.
If you're gonna have a demand on the electricity, how will that impact our bills, especially when DTE wants to upgrade the system to accommodate, the facility?
So, ma'am, here. So she's asking the, it's okay, but I'm gonna be your proxy, I got you. So, the question was that these systems from DTE, should we receive DTE power? They'll require upgrades, and what is the impact financially? What are the costs to each and every one of you for us to be able to get energy? Is that fair? So I'm gonna answer. So, there is a Michigan state law that we have to pay for all upgrades. Any business that requires an upgrade to the utility system and infrastructure is required to pay for it. You can go look it up. It's a Michigan state law. Furthermore, there is a program that almost every utility in the United States references, which is called a contribution in aid of construction. It's called a kayak. And that is the economic investment that a company like mine is required to make with the utility to obtain the energy that we want. So we're going to look at pricing in two different ways. There's what you call CapEx, which is the capital, the one-time expenditure. How do we pay for something that needs to be built? And then the operations costs, the ongoing, what are your monthly bills going to look like? So there's two things that need to be accounted for here. At the capital side, the one-time cost, I have to pay for all of it. You pay for nothing. You can call DTE, you can go ask them, you can look at the state of Michigan. I couldn't even try to make you pay for it if I wanted to. Even if you offer it, I can't take your money. So we have full responsibility for that. On the ongoing bill side of the equation, running utility, and I don't want you to have empathy because I asked you to, I'm going to explain briefly. Running utility is hard. Not one person here uses a consistent amount of energy. You don't. None of us do, me included. You use energy at peak times more than others, but you know what you require? You require the ability to get that energy anytime you want. If it's 2 in the morning and you want to turn on your washer and your dryer, charge an electric car, you want to grow marijuana in your basement, and you want to play video games on every TV that you possibly own, DTE has to deliver you that power. But yet, on the rest of that time, you're not using any of that power, so it's hard. So here's where we're, and I know no one's going to want to hear this, I understand this, we're a benefit to the bill side. We're taking a large amount of power, and we're using it consistently, which means it costs them less to actually operate. Their charter is for residential and smaller businesses because they have to be able to manage their overall cost to do business. So we lower the rate. And they will stand up to this. I'm not speaking for them, but they'll explain to you that when they have a more efficient off-taker at scale, who is us, everybody else's rates actually improve because of efficiency. So I have a lady in the back, so I apologize. I have a lady in the back. Hold on 1 second, sir. She's been raising her hand for quite some time.
Earlier you said that, if you guys ended up needing more water, you guys would go through the proper channels in which to go through all of it, take the, whatever that needs to get signed by city council and pass whatever.
Sure.
I wanna know about if Raven's history in a data center that you've built with your company, has that happened, and how did the community respond? And also, I would love to know your personal moral thoughts on this, because we are a room full of the community, and we are saying we don't want this. We are saying this is going to hurt, and it is so frustrating to be begging to work, to beg and work hard, to fight for our fellow humans. So please just hear us.
Sure.
I moved here to Gibraltar. I live less than a mile away from the proposed data plan site, whatever it's called. I can't imagine what it's like supposed to have lived here for so long. I just moved here 1 week ago. I want to know what Raven has done, when they have gone over their water usage and what.
How many facilities have you built?
One second. So it's a very good question, and what this goes to is the evolution of the technology that makes the data centers work. So 15 years ago, wherever my gentleman was that left, we used water towers. We used open systems. We used ambient cooling. We had all of this water managed equipment where everything was water based. And by virtue of that, we needed a ton of water at almost every facility. So when folks are bringing up statistics about how much water data centers use, you have to look at modern data centers. Over time, we've evolved that. We're not going backwards. So there isn't an instance in which the future state of the way that these buildings are operating, that we need more water. So when we look at the ways that the largest companies in the world, so NVIDIA, for example, if you've never heard of NVIDIA, they make all of the computer equipment that enables AI to function. They're the most wealthiest company in the world. When they make their computers, they are creating the mechanism by which we have to build buildings. The more powerful the computers they create, the more specific the buildings need to operate. And the water-based consumption that you're describing simply can't keep up. So for everything that you're explaining, I agree with you, and you asked for my moral compass. I went to an agricultural college. I understand from an environmental perspective, we now live in a space where the gentleman who said he builds chillers, then he understands that chiller technology today is about 70 to 100% more efficient than it was 8 to 10 years ago. It requires less water, it requires less energy. So that's our trajectory. So I've never had to go back and say, oh no, we made a mistake, can we get more water? Or a customer came in and all of a sudden they just really like aquaculture. That's not how that works. We want to try to maintain efficiency, and all the evolution of the technology we need to use is making an improvement there over time. We're not going backwards. You can have a follow-up, please.
I have a follow-up that's a different and separate question. I've heard you say multiple times that Raven has hired engineers, has hired XYZ experts to come and survey the land, survey the building, et
Sure.
cetera, et cetera. Has there been any other experts, any other consultants, any other engineers, other than paid for by Raven, that have come to look at that site?
That I don't know. I mean, my job is to go and make sure that what we provide to the planning commission and what we deliver to the city is from an accredited, authorized STEM engineering firm, of which we use local folks because we don't bring those in out of the area. I think which should be helpful because we're not asking someone to be piloted in here. And those reports are then subject to what we deliver. So there may be folks that have issued reports that I haven't seen anything to the contrary. We hire our own because we also don't believe anything that we've seen. When we get a report for a site where some real estate person says, everything's perfect, that's my scariest day. I can't, there's no way. So we want to know the good, the bad, and the indifferent. This gentleman was talking about Superfund. He's talking about all of the hidden challenges. If we don't know that and we spend a lot of money, which by the way, there's a lot of money being spent on this site if we go through and we purchase it, significantly more than it was of value in any way, shape, or form in its current state, I better know where all the bodies are here. Because my investors are going to lose their minds if I turn around and go, sorry, it's going to be another $300 million to go fix this. So there may be reports, but we only commission our own. So I'm not sure, yes, I didn't, go ahead, sir.
I have two questions. First of all, have you looked at the environmental impact of your data center versus Ferrolex versus McCall Steel before? I think people need to think about that.
Right.
Ferrolex has been there. They've been running all their stuff for years.
Correct.
You know, the second question, and that's interesting. The second thing, are you asking for abatements from the city of Gibraltar? Yes.
Tax abatements. So let's, go ahead, I'm sorry, you have multi-part question, go ahead.
Yes or no?
Okay, if you're asking for tax abatement,
Sure.
how long? And if you decide to close up before the tax abatements are expired, is there gonna be something in the contract that says you pay us back taxes? 'Cause
Good question.
You didn't live up to your agreement.
Yeah, so let's start with the comps, right? So how does this site compare to a steel manufacturing plant, so parallels? The only benchmarks that we're looking at are frankly power and water consumption. Those are really the only ones that we can really view as in common. We require significantly less water, which we talked about. We've gone through this, and there's conjecture, and I understand that. Our processes don't require water, as we've said. So it's a significant reduction in the amount of water that a comparable plant at that site would require versus what we're doing. On the energy side of the equation, we require more energy, more consistent. So we're going to be a larger volume user of energy at a higher rate, which makes us more efficient for DTE, which we were talking about a little bit ago. So those are the two comparative points that we have. What's hard is they're two completely different businesses. So those are the only benchmarks that we can really apply. I don't want to seem like I'm vilifying them, because if they try to compare me to them, it's not an apples to apples comparison, other than those areas. So on the tax side, which I'm sure plenty of people are going to have questions about, so the state of Michigan does have a sales and use tax abatement for data centers. If I stood up here and told you that I wasn't interested in that, then you should think that I'm absolutely crazy. I don't know about any of you, but if you were told that if you had the ability to save money for your business, and it was through a legal channel, and one that was approved, you should probably do that. So on the sales and use tax, you are absolutely right, that we are fully planning, should we go forth with this project, in petitioning for that sales and use tax abatement. It is not a blanket across all potential taxes that are generated from this site. And it is a state mandated program that they hold us to that includes things such as total capital expenditures of the project. You have to spend a certain amount of money, $250 million. You have to hire a specific number of jobs that are local jobs, and they audit those. And each one of those jobs has to pay 125% minimum of the prevailing wage. So those are our obligations and commitments. No one's blessing us and just saying, oh, it's tax payments. We have obligations on our end. By the way, every job that we hire has to follow that threshold. So we don't get to say, oh, we just hired 10 and we made it. Okay, that's great. We have to hire all of our jobs at that minimum, which is why I mentioned earlier that security staff, janitors and whatnot, are paid a minimum, and we've done the metrics on this, it would be $77,000 a year. We're also hiring facilities engineers, we're hiring operations staff, we're hiring technical folks that need to work in the facility. The client is going to also hire their own folks. These are high-paying jobs. So that's part of the obligation that we have under that abatement program. We are still required to pay property taxes. We still have other taxes within the state, it's just sales and use. So we don't get the luxury of walking away from all taxes. Go ahead, sir.
Get local or county abatements in addition to the Michigan.
So the state program is only their state taxes. You're exactly right. There's layers to these taxes. We do not get a blanket abatement through local and county taxes. No.
That all these cards is great for the environment. It doesn't make any noise.
Right.
All these jobs, well, you said up to 100. It just says up to 200.
Well, that includes the vendor size, yeah.
So it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but everywhere they're put in, people are against it. What's the downside that you're not telling us?
It's a really good question. I think the downside is the unknown, and it's the environment. So when I say not the environment like wildlife and trees and things of that nature, it's the environment of where the data center is going. And what I would tell you right now is that we live in a world, and I think the lady mentioned it earlier, we now have all of this internet access where we can research anything
more
anytime.
for our electricity because
No, sir.
has to step up their game?
Absolutely not. I pay for all that.
How can you guarantee that?
DTE will stand up here and tell you that they are not charging you anything because of my Hold on. Let's just jump on. Go, sir.
Just did a report
Yep.
in November, how much electricity costs are rising because of data centers.
Which is, you're exactly right. I see it. I see
Hold
it.
on, one other thing.
Yes.
DTE, you just got a great increase, they came back 2 days later, asked for another one.
Right.
The system down here, a lot of this system is 50, 60, 70 years old.
Correct.
It can't handle much more load. So
Yes.
if you say our electric costs aren't gonna go up, everywhere else it has, why would this place be different?
So actually, hold on a second. Let's let it finish. So In many markets with many utilities, they have not enacted management processes that are going to secure their rates. So DTE now has a data center tariff, which is a specific rate, and it's a series of obligations that any data center company has to abide by. It's different than Fairlex, it's different than McDonald's, it's different than your house. And they are increased costs that go to us to pay for infrastructure. So in order for me to get any power from DTE, I have to go through an engineering study that I have to pay for. The study is not guaranteed to say anything, I just have to pay for it. When the study comes back, it includes upgrades that you're describing. So their system cannot suffer like you just described. If there's 50 to 60-year-old equipment and I'm going to be running at a level that's not going to be efficient, the study says that and I get a number. And it comes back and says, you, Jason, are going to owe $4.8 million in order to get this amount of power. That's just the upgrade cost. Then there's transmission and distribution costs, the new lines that need to be fed in, substation costs, all those belong to me. So that is the Michigan State mandate. If they're increasing their power rates, and I'm not ducking this, it's not because of me. I've been living in a completely different world. It's almost like I'm walled off from the way that you're functioning, with one exception. The power that they buy from their sources, the MISO sources, that is their generation, that's how they get their power. The more efficient that they're able to use that power, the less that they're able to charge each of their folks. They can lower their rates. So if you end up with more high efficiency users, it costs less.
You say that you lower their rates, every time we turn around, every year they come back, they ask for a rate increase.
And who pays the tariff?
And they keep.
You already said we did.
And we'll.
No, he said it is up
And
to
I'm going
them.
back and forth.
Yeah.
Ask if you'll publish three things.
Sure.
First of all, the environmental impact study
Yep.
of your facility. Second of all, you either have to have a pollution prevention plan or an integrated contingency plan. In your case, because there's heavy metals in there.
Environmental health and safety, yes.
Yeah, an integrated contingency plan is gonna be required.
Sure.
And this study you're talking about power, will you publish those so we can all read them online?
I don't have a problem publishing any of that. No, that's proprietary.
And can you get that done, say in the next 90 days?
Yeah, that's not a problem at all. We've already done a lot of that work. For sure. So hold on a second. She was waiting patiently, and I'll give you one. Go ahead.
I just want to verify, you said that your place is going to use 100 megawatts of power, right?
Initially, yes.
Initially, that is equal to 100,000 homes.
Yes.
Yes.
Just to put that into context for
For sure.
everybody, because that's a lot of power.
But I'm concerned with that initially.
In regards to DTE, are you gonna be a part of their road shed plan? Is that-
So that's a really good question. I don't know how familiar everybody is with heat load shaving, but basically what this means is that when you have high users, when you have like large consumption, if you will, so when it gets hot during the hot times of the year, that puts a lot of stress on these networks. They will offer a program to companies like ours that will say, don't use our power, just shut it off. So in that event, we would then use generators to supply power, because we can't stop. And again, hold on, just bear with me. This is an optional program. Our customers are the ones that dictate this. Very few data centers like this. It's called curtailment or peak load shaving. Very few data centers sign up for that. So it's really, it depends on our customers. We offer it because they will actually give us a rate discount if we do that. So there's an economic benefit, and it depends. So the answer is that until we can tell which customer this is going to be, I don't have an answer. Yes, ma'am.
So you mentioned that you picked this site because, part of the reason why is because it's surrounded on most sides by Superfund sites and not clean land. The other side that borders this property is Humbug Marsh, which is a Ramsar wetland of international importance and was saved from development by probably several people in this room when I was like 10 years old. I can't take credit for it, but I work there now. And we owe everything to where we're at because of the people that stood up against development. I know you're not trying to develop Humbug Marsh specifically, but the sound, the noise,
The light.
everything, there's osprey nests on that property, on a big tower. like, the people have voices
Sure.
and, yeah, and then the bunkhouse, obviously, I already talked about that, but,
No, I agree with you. What I would say is that we've gone through an environmental study because we're required to do that. So like when we look at any piece of land, things that are indigenous species, things that are endangered species, like it's literally an endangered species report. So our engineering firm has gone through those studies.
did you talk to the Fish and Wildlife Service, who owns the property directly across the street from you?
Our engineers did,
No,
I did not.
they
So our engineers did the assessment locally. And what I
I'm
can
here
tell
on
you is,
behalf of the Fish and Wildlife
I
Service.
understood,
And they
and
didn't talk, because
Okay.
the first thing we ever heard from the city of Gibraltar's website.
okay, I understood. So, again, going back to, you talk about noise, you talk about light, we're not allowed to project more than 1 kilometer distance past the property boundary. So that's a very de minimis amount of light, there can be no light projection past the boundary. The noise decibel rating cannot be 55 decibels or higher, which by the way is allowed truck driving past that road, which is outside of where our site is. So these are all mandates for us to actually be able to do anything. We can't go construct just what we want, so you guys go figure it out later. So this is all part of our city submission plan. We have to adhere to these requirements, we don't have a choice.
Will you be doing continual testing on the hearing?
You have to, so you're audited annually. So, yeah, so you're.
Like once a month or every day?
It's typically mandated, so in terms of our audit compliance, all of the appropriation of those generators, for example. So all that package is what's approved by the city. Its design doesn't allow us to operate outside of those boundaries. You can't go change the way that it was built and installed to design. So it's a very valid point. There's not a bait and switch where we go and say, oh, it started to do like this and then it ran somewhere else. That's not how the site is set up. So whatever we submitted is what we have to actually install and operate at. Otherwise, we're not allowed to get approved, there would be no building for the site. So that's why we got to do all the forward engineering together. So it's a valid point.
Can I finish my question though?
Oh, yeah, I'm
That-
sorry, I think you were done.
The question that I have, which is on behalf of our refuge manager,
Sure.
who couldn't be here, but has not heard from anybody on behalf of this project, is that the current property owners of the High Cal site,
Sure.
McLeod Steel, have an easement that goes through Humbug Marsh to the, Handler Drain, which is the water.
Yes, there's a, it's not a wastewater
So-
easement, but yes,
So if you plan to use that,
we don't.
you
I have
don't
no
plan to
need for
use the easement at all for the water?
We don't need it,
Okay.
yeah, it doesn't apply to our project.
You're going to give that easement up.
Yes.
I don't see why not, I don't need it.
Could that change? Could you need it later?
No, so that goes back to the latest question about the evolution of our building technology. We don't need the water, it's not, that's not gonna change. Hold on a second, give me 1 second, I got a whole myriad of those. So, I know, we got, actually, this lady has had her hand up possibly, if you were forever, she's eons before, so give me 1 minute, so.
About compliance and restrictions and EPA and legal and all of that. And then you talk about, steel companies and others that have to, comply. But
Sure.
they don't. Instead, what happens is they pay the fine and just do what they were doing anyway. How can we trust you to say that you're going to be doing this when all around you see other factories and other places have done this? They just pay the fine and go on.
Yep.
That's the one thing I wanted to say.
Yep.
The other thing
Sure.
was, okay, it seems to be boiling down to the noise, which
Yes.
affect your health, but you really haven't answered that question.
No.
I mean, I think most everybody in here still is wondering about that noise and how it's gonna affect them and their health. And what is your company actually going to do to make sure that, 55 decibels is a lot if you're having that continuously. That's like a truck going by all the time, all the time.
24/7.
Correct, but it's within the site and the enclosure itself. So I think it's a very good point, is that there is equipment that's going to be running continuously. You're not allowed to project anything louder than that past the boundary levels of that site. When you look at where we're going, we'll show you, I can show you master plan, is where the potential of the equipment that would make noise, generators when they run, which by the way, they're run once a month, and then the cooling equipment, which is below those levels, we don't have anything else that projects noise past the site. So I think a very important point to reference is that the loudest devices that could get close to that 55 decibel level are the backup generators. They run at most once a month for an hour.
But you said in the summertime, it could run.
So this lady's point is if we were enrolled in a program where, let's say for example, and this is a very important measure of this overall area, is you have a very temperate environment. So you don't have a lot of hot days. The worst. Listen. No, when I say hot, you have to understand what we view as hot. So hot is going to be above 90 degrees Fahrenheit and above 85% humidity. You don't have. We've done the zygometric charts. We've looked at all of this. In terms of where DTE runs into a process where they are hampered by being able to serve load, it's not a lot of days. If we enroll in those programs where we would have to run our generators, it's not a continuous thing. It ends up being an hour to 2 hours on a given day if we enroll. We haven't made that decision. So beyond that, when you're talking about noise, there isn't a consistent noise influx. One of the things that we looked at in this building, for example, is the way the building is built. It maintains an envelope, the outside of the building, that you can't hear what's going on the inside. The computers themselves aren't that noise laden when you have this envelope. It's one of the reasons why that's site. So I think all the factors are leading into here is that the one potential noise concern is limited in its use and can't project past the site. I mean, I can prove that to you in terms of how we have to register and function. In the back, in the red, yes.
Thank you.
For sure.
So the question I have is this, your engineers have done a lot of studies, and I like that, but here's the dynamic that I like to understand. So
Sure.
in Michigan, we have a monopoly, there's two companies that run our state for energy. So the question I have is this, because our current administration in the state is handing away abatements and freebies to the data centers all over Michigan, your engineers are doing a load study to see how much energy they can handle in the existing grid as it exists today.
Correct.
So the question I have for you is, are your engineers forecasting the load on all the data centers that are popping up? Because it's not just Saline. There's communities throughout Michigan that are building them like they're McDonald's on every single corner. So the question I have is this, if you're doing a load carrying capacity for the energy that you need now, the energy that you need now is on the existing legacy infrastructure.
Sure.
It's not what the infrastructure needs to be to support all the data centers that are popping up all over the place. So one of the things I'd like to understand is, did your engineers do the modeling not to what the infrastructure looks like today, but what the forecasted infrastructure looks like?
That's not the DTE. That's not.
It's not us. So see,
It's nothing to do with him.
You're right.
yeah.
That's CTE.
So, but I think there's a blend of both.
That was the preface, that was the baseline for my question.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
That's
So,
okay.
if you guys have, if DTE already they have a abysmal record, nationally for keeping the lights on, if you will, for outages and stuff. So if they already have, an issue with that now, how do you think that your facility would contribute to, less uptime for energy for the consumers? And then the other part of the question I have is this. We've talked about water, we've talked about energy, the other part is electromagnetic frequency. Because anytime you
Okay, so I can answer that pretty succinctly. So on the energy capacity side, as the gentleman said, that's DTE's planning, however, we're part of that process. When you petition to build a data center or a factory, or anything that's going to need a large volume of power, you go to the utility and they put you in what's called the queue. And the queue is all of the people and all the companies that are asking for large amounts of power. And then there's an order in which you're going to be able to actually obtain that power based upon studies. So when Celine made their petition, they're asking for 1.4 gigawatts of power. It's a large amount of power. DTE had to go through a massive study to understand how to support that. Our only participation in that is to make sure that we're telling them how much power we would like to achieve, when we would like to achieve it, and they come back and tell us when we can get it. So our participation really is making sure that we're just living up to their approval standards and we're paying our way, which is the only way to get any power, when that delivery can actually occur. They do all their own engineering studies. On the electromagnetic side, we're not generating electricity, we're using electricity. So by virtue of that, there are, so if you've ever heard of electromagnetic protection, so EMP, is the way that you build a building to prevent any signals from coming in and out. We don't have that type of process in our facilities because the computers and those devices are consuming power. Generation is where that's derived from. The distribution of that is where there's lower levels. The cancer incidences that you're describing are around the generation plants themselves. We are a consumer. So no more than the Fairlux site that receives a fair amount of power isn't creating electromagnetic related diseases as far as I'm aware of. That's not something that is applicable to the use of what we have. It's a very good question, but we're not a generator. Okay?
Okay, so mine is twofold. How close do you live to one of your facilities that are just like this?
How close do I live currently? I live 2 miles away from the data center.
Facility just like this?
Yeah, it's a 70 megawatt data center in Oklahoma.
Okay, and then my other part is, we've talked about, and I'm not for it, I'll just be honest, but what do you think you're gonna benefit us? Have you looked at our infrastructure? DTE is right now still trying to replace, I don't even know how old our lines are.
Sure.
So they're out there doing that. Our water lines, have you looked at Gibraltar as a whole in our infrastructure? And I understand you're only gonna be using the mineral water that you're claiming to use, however, you're gonna be putting load on us.
Sure.
And how are you gonna then benefit us? What is the benefit to us? You're talking about jobs that's irrelevant, you're only gonna be hiring 77 to 100 people. This is a large area. You're not hiring just from Gibraltar. You're gonna be going outwards, Ann Arbor, whatever. So with that said, what are we gonna gain
Sure.
from having you here?
So there's 3 layers to that. It's a great question. So
What's in it for us?
yeah, it's a great question.
If you look around here, this is, you
That's
have
what I just
house
asked
going
them,
through
so
like
let me
this.
answer.
Yeah.
That means people are into outdoors, coding.
Okay, yeah,
cooking,
let me
hunting.
answer.
Yeah.
You gotta
What's
let
in
me
it for
answer.
us? We got a pretty
So
close.
she made it clear. So I think it's so the what's in it for you guys, I think falls. Hold on. I have to answer her question. I have to be fair to answer her question.
60 jobs.
Hold on, please. Madam, I owe her the right to answer her question. Right. So obviously, in our perception, if I just sat there and told you what was good for you, then I'd be your mom. That's not fair. So I'm not going to do
No, I'm
that.
asking how you're gonna.
I know, exactly. So essentially, how do we benefit? So you did hit on this, is that there are jobs, and I know that may seem, I get it, but,
I said Gibraltar.
So we're like-
They are infrastructure.
well, we have to hire locally. So you do have to understand, we have to hire locally. And one of the things that we've already looked at are where, and we've had innumerable conversations with local folks about the talent pool that's here. That's also a reason to come here. People that work on legacy.
We already talked about the debt, so I said I
Okay,
already got that.
okay,
part.
understood.
I said the city is.
So then tax base, we're paying a significant amount more of property taxes and other related taxes in this region than what that site generates today, because we're automatically reappropriated into what we paid for. So the existing site, as the way it is today, operates based upon its existing purchase basis. When you buy a new piece of land, you buy a new building, then your taxes are derived off of that basis. This is a $40 to $60 million purchase, which is significantly higher than that. So those are the tangible pieces. pieces, so there's a tax benefit to this entire region. The last one is one that I'm sure is not going to be met with a lot of favor, but I'm still going to explain it nonetheless. Is one of the slides up here illustrates the way that everyone here utilizes technology. You were actually one that mentioned this. You talked about there's a dependency on the internet. We all have that. For everyone here that's done research, you use the internet, so we get all that. This isn't just about internet. The evolution of the way technology is functioning today is one in which you need proximity of service to the people that use it. So the devices, the computers that actually are behind every single cell phone device query that you make, everything that you do technologically and things that you're not aware of requires a computer somewhere. The further away you are from those devices themselves, the lower the performance and the lower the quality of service.
Like you
So,
just said, that a lot of what's going to be in there might not even necessarily be the things that we're utilizing.
not necessarily directly.
Correct. So
You're-
I'm
you're-
asking
it's a-
for
it's
the
a-
city.
Correct, it's an underpinning of all of
The
that, is
benefit
that
to the city.
benefits to the city is that all of the technology infrastructure that everybody uses is currently reliant upon systems that are way outside of
That's
it.
not benefiting my.
And so, it is benefiting the
That's
city.
benefiting me as a computer user.
Correct.
I said my city, my infrastructure, my area.
That's gonna be your tax base. I mean, I can't speak on it more than that, is we're gonna be generating a bunch of
Really
money.
not that much.
Well, I think it's much more
Well, the
significant than
property
you think.
taxes, but
No, it's all that, it's all the local, it's all the local county taxes, so we can pay. Oh, I'm sorry, okay, sure, yes.
Hey, can we quiet down?
Thank you.
Just talk closer to your mouth. Yeah.
It's very, very confidential license. The government is staying over here. It took 7 years for Congressman Damon, with the help of a lot of good people here in the area, to set that wildlife property aside. And at the same time, the 2000 started in 2000. It took over 3 years.
Go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
So,
Go ahead.
it's not only gonna have a large drawing screen, but it's also gonna have on-site backup generation.
Yes.
What's gonna be the CO2 and climate impact of those two? And how is that going to impact your climate?
It's a great question. So that's where we're subject to the EAGLE program and the EAGLE process. So your state has implemented and initiated standards that we can't exceed. They send, and we've been asked this multiple times about auditors who comes in and checks and verifies. So all I can tell you is that we are governed by their process. Go ahead.
What is
Where you
that
just
right
get line.
I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head. I apologize. The total amount of CO2 tonnage, I don't know off the top of my head. But I can certainly, if you want to follow up with me, I'd be more than happy to get you all that information.
Jason.
The decibels. Yeah, the exhaust, yeah. No. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead, yes.
Understand that, I'll use the word, which is probably not a good word to use, but you're the middleman because your company is the one that's going out, researching, trying to find, and is also, because you said you don't know who the end customers are going to be, you had to have some kind of an idea of who might be wanting to put their servers
We do.
in that building.
Yes, I can talk to you about the classes of those types of customers, sure.
Okay. Can I finish?
Hold on, let her finish, please. Go ahead. You're good.
Are you still in that building as well as the company?
We are the owner and operator of that site. So we don't leave. We are here for the duration. We are hiring and managing the operations staff that is there, the security staff. They are rated employees. So we're not developing and walking away.
And then that, whatever that company is hiring whoever they need to do what they need done in that building as well.
It's a great question. So the technical terminology, if anyone wants to go on Jeopardy for computers, is called moves, adds, and changes. This is what happens inside of a data center, meaning that the computers themselves, they require maintenance. Cables need to be installed. Disk drives need to be removed and put back in place. Memory chips need to be installed, things of that nature. that company will hire also their own technology folks to be able to do that day-to-day work.
So the other question is because that is true, that some companies like to have their privacy as to like who is in that data center
Sure.
and whatnot. I get that. So is your name the one that's gonna be on that building?
Yes.
Not that
No.
sublease or whatever you wanna call
No,
it, a sublease?
they are our tenant. That is correct.
And the reason I asked that question, and I hate to bring this up, and y'all can shoot me for it, I don't care, it's my opinion.
There's a lot of people here that won't let you get
I know, because here comes the guns. Because, yes, we have missile attacks over the Middle East
Sure.
that are specifically going after data centers.
Mhm.
They recently targeted 3 of the Amazon ones. We know, okay, do I believe we're gonna get attacked here in the States? No, but I'm not gonna say I don't believe it could never happen, because it could. So if there's a Amazon, a Microsoft, or something over there, and they wanna disrupt, they want to disrupt our data,
Sure.
the United States data, that could be targeted for that exact reason. So with it being your name on the building,
Yep.
but they know what you do,
Yep.
there's a good chance they could still target it.
No.
No?
So I appreciate that. This is why anytime a data center is built anywhere in the United States, you are required to register with the local police department. You're required to register with the fire department. They come through, and I've already met with these folks as part of the preliminary assessment. We have to then publish plans for how we manage emergency contingency. If you go look at the assault on data centers of this size in the United States in the last 10 years, it's 0.
We weren't at war.
So from what you're seeing in the Middle East, you're not incorrect. That in a world in which they're sending drones and we have the problems that are going on over there, now look domestically in the United States. What I'll also raise you, if you were somebody of a terroristic nature, which clearly you're not, but let's say you went home and you're like, I'm gonna go get him. And so if we thought about that and we said, where would you go? This isn't your data center. The data center you're going to is Northern Virginia. The data centers that you're going to are the ones where the largest amount of internet and other traffic exists. By the way, blowing up one data center in Qatar or Qatar or whatever anybody wants to call it, from Amazon, about disrupted nothing. And so the reality that somebody's sitting there thinking that's a target, this is a scattershot of what's going on of just geopolitics. In the United States, I'll tell you what's a much greater risk. Now go look up how many instances of attacks on utility substations there have been in the last 10 years. I live in California. People like shooting at them with 50 caliber weapons. And if you notice, there aren't any utility substations with walls around them. So we have fences, there are security guards, there are cameras. We have to put protocols in place. So I share your sentiment about the overarching concern, and I'm not also trying to minimize our project and act like it's not important, but in the whole scheme of things of a national security presence, that's not what we're doing. It's a fair question. Yeah, Sam?
All right, so I have a few things to say. First of all, you said you have an agriculture degree, correct? Okay, so you know some about agriculture.
My mom is a PhD in environmental toxicology, so
I'm assuming that study, you maybe studied environment, wetlands, brownfields, things like that.
on the site we're required to, absolutely.
Correct. So my question, is with you having all this water usage
We don't have water usage.
for your plant?
We don't have water usage. And I apologize, I'm not trying to be trite. I'm not using
What
water.
I'm saying is, there must be some water you use.
It's 200 to 500 gallons a day.
Wetlands are protected.
Correct.
We all know that. Wildlife is
Oh,
protected, federal wildlife, birds, things like that that have come back in this area.
Correct.
We live in California. Couple
Yes.
things I want to bring up. The terrorist thing, people shooting in California, you're allowed 6 bullets to your magazine. I know that. Why? My boyfriend was an avid gun collector from California. So it's not like people in California are boom, boom, boom. So for your little thing on.
But I almost feel like in a legal sense, I want to say where's our direction.
Okay.
Apologize, I just want to make sure I'm getting a little lost.
Clarify city office.
No, I was
My son works at a data center. There's no noise.
It's time. We have kids.
We live next door to farming, talk about being bombed. Come on, we dead.
They use medical devices, you use the electricity, where's their devices? They won't have none of these. So I feel like you're coming in from California, big money, different policies out there than Michigan, and you truly don't understand. And my really poignant question here, I want everybody in the room to think about this. You keep mentioning you have investors.
Correct.
Maybe they're angel investors, maybe some other kind.
They're private equity
Maybe
investors.
they're people in your family.
Private equity investors.
But what is their rate of return on their investment in this project? Because obviously they're getting something more than the rest of us are getting by buying a piece of land that you and them can afford, but the rest of us aren't gonna reap benefits from. I don't hear you talk about how this money's going to school or anything, it's all, oh, that's up to your government.
No, it's not up to your government, we're generating significant amount of tax
You
dollars.
said that was up.
Well, that's how a community benefits.
So
There isn't, I mean, we don't live in a communist state where we're gonna share all of our profits, that's not how this works, so. Hold on one second, I'm going to say,
I want to ask you guys a question, and the only two benefits so far that I've heard are faster internet, which is ever changing, and then the abysmal job growth. The job growth and the whole point of the AI center is to make the internet better and grow and everything, but the AI data centers are taking jobs from people in other things, not just this. So for the 60 to 200 jobs that you guys are saying, full-time, part-time, and all of that, what is the duration of it? Because once it's built?
That's right, so that's a very good point. The constructability of it requires exponentially more jobs. In order for us to build this, we're gonna require 200 to 300 units to build it, and that has time. Once that's built, those may move on to the next project, right? They try, okay?
So like a
From
contract,
the
right? And they're
permanent
done.
jobs, however, you know what I can't do? I can't use AI to go and perform preventative maintenance on a generator.
Right, but that takes like 1 or 2 people.
Oh, no, we have, so inside the facility, the engineering operations staff and security staff are working 24 hours a day. This is a 24/7 shop.
Okay,
So we're
but
running-
60 to 200 different jobs is 140 different people.
Yes.
You're saying, I'm thinking
No,
it's just
so
these
there's-
60 different
No,
jobs.
there's gonna be 60 to 100 great permanent jobs. And I put 200 on there because all of the supporting vendor companies that have to manage all of these are going to have to hire in somewhere on the order of about 100 additional staff across power, cooling, and the overall building to support. So we have contracts to do all of that work.
Okay, and are they required, like you were saying, here in the communities?
Well, if they don't live here, they can't respond fast enough. So here's why this is important. So in these buildings, if there's a disruption of service to the computers,
Okay.
the customers are paid penalties by us. So if the data center's not functioning, I owe penalties to my customer. So then what we do is we sign up for 2-hour, 4-hour, 8-hour, 16 or 24-hour contracts for those vendors to send people out. If they're not local, they don't get there fast enough. So we have to have parts and products on site. We have to have vendors locally that have people staffed here. We do this every data center in the United States. If you don't have a local staff, I'll give you an example. I built a large data center campus in the middle of nowhere in Washington State. We didn't have people. So we literally had to go put together a training program so we can get people trained up because they have to be local. So it's a very good question, they have to be.
Ask them about
We get
jobs.
So,
Take away a
now,
So in our house,
That's what I'm saying.
hold on, folks. So then hey, she has a right to talk, please.
in our council meeting on Monday, you mentioned that you've been looking at this facility for over a year.
Correct.
Who's your contact within the city?
Contact we reached out.
Who have you been working with?
So the city administrator, so Rachel Witherspoon, and we were submitting all of our approvals through.
So prior to that,
So prior to that, we do all of our peripheral work. We don't, until we know this is actually something we're gonna invest in, which we've already invested a lot of money, we don't go and reach out to anybody. We have to do our own diligence. So it's only within, where are we at, March, 2.5 months ago, that we said, okay, we have enough data, we have enough information. We've hired our local engineers to put together plans. Now we will call the city and go, we need to buy this site. We're gonna go through this process and we need, what is your process to submit? So prior to that, it's basically like, if we don't do our homework, we're wasting everybody's time. We're in the world of now, there's so much perceptive opportunity in the data center world. You have all of these developers that have never done this before, and they waste a lot of people's time. I'm not trying to act like we're special, I've just done this for a long time. So until we have conviction, I don't want to call you and go, I'm going to go over for dinner next Thursday, and then I'm not showing up. That's, maybe you want me for dinner, but that's what we're managing. So it's only within that last 2 months. We had a conversation with the mayor, we had a conversation with Rachel, we had meetings with all of the requisite city officials, fire, police, city planning. Here's what we're thinking about doing now that we're here. And the next city planning said things like, now submit this process. And then they come back and said, you did it wrong, now do it right, and it's a give and take. So that's the dynamic of when we felt good enough to get started, we went back.
Is your engineering firm CE ranked?
No, Atwell is our engineering firm. So Atwell is our group. And then we got them voted on it. Yes, sir, sorry, I need to wait for it, yes. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. I got 2 questions. How many construction jobs have you estimated?
So for a typical 100 megawatt project, including electrical, mechanical, overall trades and whatnot, this is gonna have somewhere between 500 to 700 jobs that are need to be dedicated to this site over a 12 to 18 month period for the first phase to get that developed.
And are those gonna be union jobs?
They are union jobs, you're a union territory, so.
Not necessarily.
Hold on, let me explain really quick to his point. So there's a name on here on purpose, is Hassel and Bueller Electrical is here. I've worked with Hassel for a very long period of time, IBEW nationally. We hire union jobs, this is what we do. So we don't just do this in our constituent base. And for example, to what this gentleman's question is, we may have providers that are going to deliver equipment that don't have a union shop. They have to work with a union provider to have it delivered here. I know my homework, so very good point. So that's unalienable. If you come in and you don't do that right, then there's a problem. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have a question about environmental impact.
I'm sorry, say it again, I apologize.
Question about your environmental impact.
Yes.
You're right across from the Humboldt Marsh, which is the International Wildlife Refuge, which, by the way, I worked 6 years in state.
Sure.
I've been here for 50 years.
Yep.
And I cannot see that you're not going to have an impact on the wildlife refuge.
Well, I mean, that's where our environmental study is going to have to prove that to you, and we'd be more than happy to disclose it. Like, all I can tell you is,
I don't want environmental impact studies from your company and the people you hire. I want to see it from outside.
well, and that's up to you. I understand.
I did this for 6 years because they tried to.
Sure.
6 years they tried to develop that property.
Yeah.
And I worked for 6 years to save it, and now you want to come in and build this gigantic data center.
No, it's no bigger than the existing building, ma'am. I'm not knocking that building down. I'm not changing anything on the outside.
You're going in where the old McLeod Steel is, right?
No, ma'am. No, 27800 West Jefferson. So it's a legacy steel plant. It's 560,000 square feet. We don't have the ability to build anything. Okay, I apologize.
Okay, that's right across from.
It is, it's directly across the street.
International Wildlife Refuge.
We don't
What I'm
create
saying
any
is,
pollution.
it's one of the very few. We only hit the nearest one is in Ohio.
Understood, and I agree with you. This is where we wouldn't have gotten to this point if there was any potential encroachment on anything that was wildlife related. I wouldn't be standing
So
here.
you're not going to guarantee that you're not going to have any impact on any of the wildlife in that.
There's no, ma'am. There's no impact. No.
I just want to, can I just get on one, only?
Sure.
Okay.
You probably ain't 12 as the others have, so do what
I've
you
been
do.
listening very carefully.
Yes, you have.
I hear you saying things more than once. I really respect your patience. I respect our patience as well. I hear you saying that you're going to follow all the applicable laws.
Sure.
Please understand, and whether you know our area or another area, laws change.
Yeah.
And we ended up in some very terrible places, wildlife, environmental concerns, because it was all legal at the time.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't, we'll pay the fines and override it. It was perfectly legal.
Yes.
We worked really hard, thank you to the folks that did, to conserve some of this area. You can talk about something that is defined in black and white, but there are intangibles. For example, light pollution. You can say this many candles can't pass the fence,
Right.
but you also can't tell me it doesn't affect migratory birds.
You got it? Yep.
So there's the law and there's the natural world, and they don't always meet in the same
It's
place.
fair to That's fair. So what I would ask you, and I haven't had kind of the opportunity, so you gave me an opportunity, so I appreciate it, is, this is hypothetical, is what if we committed that we said, we came to you, you're wearing a refuge strong shirt, and we said, hey, look, let's do this together. If we commit to transparency, which we would, and we said, let's go collectively. We're going to tell you who we think we should hire to go study this. We're going to come up with some report, and if the report doesn't work, then it's not up to your satisfaction, and there's no mitigation for it, then it doesn't work. Would you be up for some partnership in that, as at least from a dialogue and review perspective? Is that fair?
That would be agreeable, yeah.
Because I think one of the things that's here, and this is one of the reasons why I chose to stand up here, I have no belief I'm going to convince anybody to me. I'm not insane. I'm a fan of amen, but not insane. So I'm not crazy. The goal is to have discourse and have dialogue, but it's also to make sure that people are heard. Data centers don't typically do this. We don't stand here and have these conversations. Because I'll be honest with you, someone can start building and then what you do. So voluntarily we've heard, and I don't want anybody patting me on the back and say, well, now you're special. That's not it at all. But there's a viability to making sure that we're a good partner of the community. You don't just pay taxes and go, whoever said it isn't worth it. Well, I mean, okay, so we're better participants. So in that, people have asked here for a lot of disclosure. If we published things like our audits and we showed people what the numbers were, God forbid you might actually understand it because maybe I don't, but we actually published those numbers and we showed some transparency as we worked through this process, where I felt, and the council is at least one council member this year, I sent an email only to the council, and I thanked them for the opportunity, and the word that I used was balance. So if, as the council is investigating the efficacy and the concern of the data center, we commit to certain levels of partnership and transparency, it sounds like that's something that could be considered for you guys. I'm not saying I would agree with it today, but if we're sitting here and saying, look, there's going to be auditors that are going to audit this on this regular basis, and you get a report, and you can go review that, and all that means is that we're publishing our data, that doesn't violate anything that there's no concerns to me for that. And if you come back and say, see, you missed it by 0.1, then that's a problem, because then there are oversight for each one of those things. So I just want to let you know I hear you. And I'm not saying this is lip service, you have to follow it. And hopefully that's fair. To at least say, let's find a path to make you, not even make, to give you the ability to see that what this is going to work for what you're asking for as it relates to wildlife. Yes, sir.
Yeah, has Radin acknowledged the executive order from the White House to prevent rate increases to households, just like Amazon and Google did?
So that's a really tricky question for the following reason. So Amazon and Google, as well as Meta, as well as Oracle, they all met at the White House. And they made a bunch of comments that don't actually have an end state to them, and that's not knocking them. They were asked to say, how are you going to solve this? And the solution that was put forth by the president was called BYOP, which is bring your own power. So the solution is you know what? You know how you're not going to cause any problems? You guys go generate power. So in this instance, our ability to go become a utility, if you will, is fairly limited in this space. We have talked to DTE, as we do with any of our other utility partners, about whether it's monetary and economic incentives that we provide to them, or even sponsoring projects on our own that will add power to their grid. That's the most that we can do here. We just don't have the resources. If this was a 500-acre site and I could build an energy plant, then I would be satisfying that requirement. Yes, ma'am. I would be one second. Apologies.
How did you pick this area? Now, did you have somebody?
Who called you from the city? You said that one.
I was asking a question real quick.
Hold on one second.
No, but somebody from the city called him. That's how he found out about this.
No, that's not how I found out.
That's
No,
what
no.
you said
I have a real estate broker. working with who is local, who called me and said, hey, I've got an old steel plant. I don't think anybody's gonna ever want this, as far as I understand it. Would this be good for a data center? I said, I have no idea, which is my stock question. I don't know. And so I said, let's talk about it. So we started from the, all right, let's take a look. That's how it began. And so I've looked at, Lord knows how many buildings and land parcels in this entire region, because we've already been operating here. Our customers have said things like, you know, how are we gonna serve the greater Detroit region? So I have a real estate broker who is local, who serves this region, who said you might want to take a look at this. Otherwise, I wouldn't know. Hold on a second, let me go to her. No, okay. Is that right? You want one? Yes.
Jason, I just want to say, I came here knowing nothing about the epicenter. The information you have provided has given me a lot of good information. I totally appreciate it. Your bulletin boards here are great. I would never, ever say that nobody in this community does not want it, because you can't say that. But what I see, number one, people asking questions and not allowing you to answer them totally. Then you answer the question, and 2 minutes later, the same question comes up.
Sure.
Because people are too busy talking and saying, oh, how bad this is. This all comes back to fear of the unknown.
Sure.
What may happen, that we may be bombed. We may be bombed because there's a Coast Guard company out here.
Right.
That might happen. We might be bombed just because. We don't know. It's all about fear of the future. And it all comes back to what has always been known as NIMBY, not in my backyard. And that is so wrong. This is, I feel you confidently that you have done the environmental tests, you have done the energy. You say no noise, it all says no noise. People aren't listening to 50 to 60 minutes a month. I hear more of that from the boats out here. And the trains, don't get me started. Yeah, and so for people to say this is a bad thing, it comes back again, fear of the unknown and NIMBY.
To that point, and we don't know each other. We don't know each other. She knows her. I can't agree with her sentiment more, because we recoil now in a day and age with a lot of information where, I'll give you background, both my parents, particularly my dad's a government physician. He will tell you, if you get sick, the worst thing you can do is look at the internet. It's like, don't you dare. You know, this is a guy who ran Veterans Hospitals for 45 years because he felt that vets deserve great medical care. The preponderance of information is challenging and valid. Just like it's challenging to sit here and listen to me. I mean, I give everybody credit. You took your time, you took your evening. I probably owe everybody who's willing to have a beer. I mean, I appreciate that. This isn't easy. I get it, is that there is so much that's out there that we don't know about. And then we've got a lot of folks where they're railing against the things that they think are concerning. She's giving me an opportunity. I'm going to tell you right now, there are bad data centers that have been built. There are data centers that haven't been great for their communities. There are data centers that weren't thoughtful in terms of the regions in which they were built. There are examples that reinforce every single thing that has been negative that's been put out here. And I'm not a choir boy. And I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that I'm going to save the world. We have a business to run. But we also have a business to run within the right confines. And as I'm committing to, and I don't walk back on my promises, we have no problem being transparent. There isn't anything that we don't need to share in terms of the way that this operates. So I do think that fear is natural. Fear is reasonable. And if we go through the day and age, I mentioned earlier, my mom's a PhD environmental toxicologist. There's some really scary stuff out there that you might not know about. All I can tell you is I'm building a box to put computers in. So it doesn't mean that that's still not something to think about. But I think there's validity, and this is where it's my favorite word, and I thought the council did a great job on Monday. It was balance. And mind you, in my email I said, you might think I'm absolutely crazy that I thought you did a great job when you passed the moratorium against me. But you gave me a window, and you said me to learn more. And I committed to fly out so we could have a conversation. I flew home for 10 hours for my anniversary and came back. This was that important. I'm not lying. I went home for 10 hours and came back. And thank God my wife is still with me after 31 years. So we're trying to make that happen. Sir, I owe you, so you had a question. I apologize if I made you lose your train of thought.
Is there a DTE rep on site?
Someone from DTE was supposed to come, but I don't know what she looks like, so I apologize. The gentleman that I work with is,
Well, the one question I had, why did you choose diesel generators over jets?
it's a great question. So for backup purposes, the startup times for diesel generators are much quicker. We need to have that engine on within a 5 to 7 second run rate. Otherwise, it disrupts the entire system internally. The turbines that you're talking about are great for generation, but for backup, their start and stop response times aren't as efficient. So that's why.
Well, I know they're cleaner and they burn cleaner, and I know
They do.
the backup generator at Fermi, like you said, will start almost instantly.
Correct. So what we do is, as part of the EGLE program for the air quality, when we buy generators, they come with a kit that's called an SCR kit that almost negligibly reduces all of the air pollution. So you're already getting a unit that's supposed to operate efficiently, but EGLE asks for you to include a package that costs more money, but it goes and reduces those emissions. That's how we manage that. We just
Well,
pay.
I know on a good day, I'm talking sunshine for the solar panels and wind for the turbines, and we've got every unit running in this area, Edison will produce about 12,000 megawatts.
Correct. It's a massive amount of power that comes
That's
through.
on a good day. Now,
Yes.
you've got some of these power plants going to periodic outages, they're down.
Right.
Maybe 1 or 2 units are down for 30, 45 days, so you can lose 1,000, 1,500 megawatts there. Fermi goes into a refill outage or a periodic outage, and maybe every year and a half, they're down for usually 30, 45 days. That's over 1,000 megawatts.
Correct, and when you translate this, 1,000 megawatts is a gigawatt. You know, we're now in Back to the Future territory. We got whatever, DeLorean outside. These are massive amounts of power. We're talking about 100 megawatts. So this is a much smaller increment than that, and our overall impact is lower in that realm as well. Ma'am, I'm sorry, I promised you, so then I'll announce on you, sir. You, sir.
Obviously, there's a lot of negative feelings starting this evening.
Sure.
Some of us are open-minded, we came here to learn. But the majority of this community feels this is not a good idea.
Yep.
Have you looked at alternative sites other than this?
We have. Yeah, we have.
Can you tell us where they're at?
So we spent probably about a year looking at a site in Taylor. The site fit a lot of the criteria, but the energy part was really challenging. So getting the actual power, it's not easy to just go get energy where you want it. And DTE isn't kind of a self-service organization where I call up and I go, can you put it over there? And they're like, here's a blank check. It doesn't work that way. So ultimately, we were not able to get the amount of power that we felt was going to validate the investment. There weren't really any other criteria. That was probably the biggest challenging point. The realistic nature is that for the types of buildings, the size, the quantity, whatnot, the disposition, and frankly, I'll be honest with you, the story is important to us. Taking a legacy site the way that we described it, it doesn't necessarily have future state use, that it can be considered reform, the adaptive reuse, that story played a role. So we have looked at other places. I look, at the end of the day, is we're not going to necessarily be Sisyphus and push a rock uphill for the rest of our life. Like, that doesn't make any sense. This is part of the process. If it's going to end up being so much of a challenge that people here aren't going to even be able to be civil to people that work at this project, that's not good for anybody. Last thing I want to do, and I travel to all of our projects, I'm on the road all the time. The last thing I want to do is come and eat at a local restaurant and have someone throw their food at me. Like, I mean that seriously, because it's not about the food being thrown at me, it's that we've disrupted something. So, as you said, there's an education process. Everyone came here, even the ones that are frustrated, they still came here to listen to us and extend. Again, am I going to convince everybody? I mean, I can tell you, data centers don't cause cancer, data centers, I can tell you all of these things, but there's going to be some self-determination there. So this is part of the process. That's why I committed after Monday. There were multiple people that came up to me after the city council meeting like, are you still going to come on Wednesday? Absolutely. And there may not be a project, but I still can. So, yes, sir, I don't think it's One moment. Go ahead.
Can you talk about what the project timeline would look like from
Yeah.
when do you think you'd be ready for site approval, then remediation, then construction to turning on the switch?
Yeah, so we're in a chicken and eggs and chickens, and I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm living in this schizophrenic world that's going in circles. I gotta have power. I have some power to the site, so there's 16 megawatts of power to the site today. It's not a lot for what I actually need. The next available tranche of power to get me to that, call it 100 megawatts, it's not determined right now. So we're working with DTE. We don't have an answer on that. Ignoring that, so I just want to give you that's a real tripping point for me. We look at for site plan approval is 30 to 45 days from submission if we've done it right. So if we've done it right, and mind you, there's a lot of hands slapping, like, no, you did it wrong, do it again, checking your work. I feel back when I was an institute high school teacher, so I feel like I'm going back into all that again. So let's say perfect world, 30 to 45 days. Then we're going to do what we're going to call building site remediation. That's going to take somewhere between 3 and 4 months. That's getting the interior of the building ready, the exterior of the building ready, knocking down those existing buildings and removing the debris, getting that all going. And then in our fastest world, we're probably 6 to 9 months from having the first phase up and running. So you're somewhere in the range of, and at best, parallel path, 9-month process, and at worst, somewhere 12 to 15 months to have the first set of computers operating in that space. Fully built out, so have this fully built out where the customers install, and there's a phase to this. Once I've built mine, the customer comes after that, they've got to do their working sides and put all the computers together and make everything working. That's somewhere going to be in like a 20 to 24 month time frame for again the first phase.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You had said 100 kilowatts?
100 megawatt.
Megawatt. You said initially.
Initially.
So what does that mean? That there's a possibility that this thing is going to be larger in the future?
So
because of the land around it?
No, so that's a great question. I can't build more than that building. So this is going to basically boil into however you use your whole colloquial phrase of how much blank I can shove into a blank. That's kind of what I'm dealing with. So I've got a building envelope that can only support so much power.
So you won't be touching any of that land at that Superfund site? You're not going to be expanding in any way, shape, or form?
The only thing that we would like to be able to do with that is if they cap that, we'd be able to put like generators or put the utility substation on that. Because that's a place where, I'm not trying to knock anybody that maybe likes Superfund sites, I don't want my kids playing there. So putting infrastructure there is a logical place for that. That would be about it. I mean, I can't build a building on that.
Which does mean then you would be bringing in more power for yourself through generators.
So not through generators, the generators are backup. The generators are only for backup. If you're able to get more energy, if you will, that's a DTE question. I might maybe plead, I might even hold on to their leg, I would like more power, but it's whether they can give me more. So it's a determination of what that, and the lady asked earlier about planning and how much capacity, like this is a very, very complicated Rubik's Cube, but if I can get more, I would certainly, we know what about the maximum of amount of power that we can put in that building, and it has a cap, I can't do any more than that. So 100 megawatts is basically what we're told at the outset, and then we go from there. I owe this gentleman.
Okay, so a lot has been said about the environmental assessments.
Sure.
On this site. But have you done a risk assessment on the AI that will be operating out of the data center? Because
that's not my job.
That there's a lot of societal harm that comes from AI. We get information and all those sorts of
Sure.
things. Have you done a risk assessment or a harm assessment based on the operations that are done in the data center?
So a couple points to that. It may not be an AI data center. We are talking to no less than 15 potential customers that could go in there. Some are AI, some are not. So beyond that, I have absolutely no ability to govern what they run on their computers. Nobody does. So you're not wrong. I'm not going to disagree with you, and I'm not playing to the audience. There should be valid concerns about how our society views and operates and implements AI. And if you follow in what the recent tete-a-tete that has gone on with our Defense Department and some of these AI providers about privacy and sharing, there's a lot of concerns that are there. I'm not trying to punt the can down the road at all. We build the building, that is a completely separate ball of wax. So all of that governance, if you will, that's at the level of the customer that's going to be operating within that space. I don't have, just so you know, I can't even touch their computers. Once I build this, I can't go in there and say, wow, that's interesting, what does that button do? I don't have the right to do that. They are very closed in terms of how they operate, this is everyone.
So,
Yeah.
once this data center is built, we as a community, are we gonna have any say in what goes on in that data center?
Absolutely not.
As far as that, so.
Absolutely not. I'm not gonna lie to you, I mean, absolutely not.
How do you choose?
Hold on, that's a great question, Helen. That's a fantastic question. Again, hopefully it's come across that I'm not trying to shut you down here, I'm gonna be honest with you. How do we choose a customer? Economics. So the economics are gonna be 100% based upon the credit of the customer. Can they pay their bills? Are they gonna pay their bills for a long period of time? And are they going to be somebody that we can rely on from an investor perspective? One of the biggest challenges is that when we're talking about a $1.5 billion capital project, that then will have another $4 to $8 billion of computer equipment in it, we're talking about big numbers. And if you have a company that can't back that type of investment, you got a problem. So it's going to begin and end with, can you pay your bills? I can't tell you that there's a moral compass to this, because that would be in violation of how business is supposed to work, but I can tell you I have a moral compass. I'm not going to tell you which companies I'm not interested in working at. I have a board of directors, I do own the company, but I can't say that out loud. But we do have the ability to pick and choose. And I've done this through the course of my career. There are certain companies that don't fit with the way that we want to operate. We don't have any concern about the customers that are there because there's so many of them. We know how they operate, we know how they function. The ones that are at the table have the credit to be able to actually live in that space and pay the bills. Like somebody asked multiple people, how long the job's gonna be here? Well, if I sign up with a company that goes bankrupt in a year and a half, and then can't pay their bills and all those jobs have gone away, no one here's gonna be happy about that. So you're gonna expect my fiduciary responsibility is to make sure that it's a company that can actually sign up and be able to go and live here for some time. Ma'am?
I have a quick question, and then the design of the property is beautiful, let's be honest. It looks a lot better than what's there now. And you said you would not build in the surrounding land, what about building up?
I can't.
You can't go up.
No, and here's the reason why, it's a great question. And I'm gonna give you kind of an analogy, go back to my school teaching days, teach by analogy. You'll hear about modular data centers. They basically look like a rail car, like a sea-land container. The people that make them think it's a great idea. The people that work in them want to go and commit a crime. I've had to work in one, it's the worst thing you've ever, if you're claustrophobic, you're gonna lose your mind. Not quite as bad, multiple story data centers are very difficult to operate. You need heavy lifting elevators, you have to move equipment around, it's really daunting to live in one. So honestly, if it made sense in any way, shape, or form that I could build upwards from a monetary perspective, absolutely. Practically, it makes none. That building is what it is. The only consideration, and it's almost like you're leading the witness, but I'll follow you, is that it's so tall on the inside. We talked about building a mezzanine on the inside. So that way I've given myself more space, but I can't go up. I had you, sir. Yes, sorry.
Yeah. We know for a fact that your planners did not talk to the Fish and Wildlife Service.
Okay.
They need to do that.
And I appreciate that, noted, and I'm not paying lip service to that. We will go back to our engineers and say, you said that you check boxes, apparently there's one
It's
that's
not a
not
box checking.
No, I just mean, they tell us.
They need to talk to the Fish and Wildlife Service that is managing the refuge.
Fair. Now, when I say check the box for me, I have a checklist. And so when I sit there and go, is this done, is this done, is this done, is this done, when I hear it's done, then I don't overqualify. But to your point, I will go back. And I take that away, I promise.
It's a regulatory issue that they didn't review properly.
Okay. Well, I will go ask. So, and again, if you want to follow up with me, I'm not going to duck you. I'll be more than happy to make sure that we follow up.
Thank you.
Sir.
Yeah, in other locations, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, sir.
In other locations, does Braden partner with or sponsor environmental organizations?
We don't typically sponsor organizations. That doesn't mean that we won't.
How about partnering with them?
We'll absolutely partner, by all means. So, yeah, so.
Money or anything, but just to work together.
So I think from the working together part, I can go back to something that's close to my heart, is that I built a data center campus in North Carolina, we were very close to Wells Fargo, where we needed a lot of trained staff. You can't go to college for data centers.
Yeah.
There's no data center degree. And so what we did is the CIO of Wells Fargo at that time said, will you go with me to the junior college? So we went to the junior college, we actually built a curriculum with the junior college to train the students on what we needed to operate a data center so they had jobs. So I know that's jobs related, but here's the commitment here. So when someone says it's important, would you reach at this, it's like right here, so this is important, I'm here to hear what's important. So it's clear and evidential that we need to the extent that you'll let me hang out with you a little bit, that we gotta become friends, I gotta learn more, and we'll put in that time. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't gonna do that. So it's a fair question. Sir?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm sorry, our comment I showed up with, but, are you committed to the 1 year moratorium?
That's a great question. So the way it's written, as I understand it, and I think I can read decently, but I'm a little tired. So, I'm sorry?
You need a waiver around it.
Well, actually, the council itself can preempt that. So if I heard what I heard right on Monday, it's a maximum of a year, but it can be rescinded at the point in time that the council feels comfortable and all of the constituents say yay or nay. What I will tell you is that I can't stand here and spend money continuously without a determined outcome. So if it's, hey Jason, you keep coming out and you hang out and everybody's cool and you got new friends and they like you, but they're still gonna not do this at the end, or you have no chance, I can't do that. So there's gotta be I figure that after we said Monday, there's gotta be some period of time in which we're collaborating and providing information, and there's continued discourse. I'll gladly come back out. I'm in Detroit often, so I have no problem. I mean, I've been here anyway. But having more dialogue, I just gotta know where we're going. So, it's a great question. Yes, sir.
At the beginning, you say that everything will be restricted to the steel mill site.
Yes.
Surrounded by a Superfund site. But then you, if I understood you correctly, you said if we could get some Superfund site, I would like to push some equipment off onto that.
Agreed. Yeah, so what I understand, if you don't mind, just real quick, is that in order to allow even equipment to sit on the Superfund site, you cap it.
Yep.
So you're literally gonna put a cap on that. And then probably the best servicing for it is equipment that doesn't have people working there and all the other things that we don't want. For me, if there's a use of that site and I can get some additional space, some relief around because you've got equipment, that seemed to be a logical win-win for everyone, because I don't know what else it would be useful.
Okay, but you don't need any larger footprint than the steel mill property to start with.
No, not at all. I don't need it, and it's what I view that as a nice to have.
Okay.
And so like when I talk to DTE and I say, hey guys, we're gonna need to build a substation on site to deliver power, I'd much rather take it off the corner of the road and the corner of the site and put it in the back of the Superfund, because it gets away from cars and other things that are there. It also puts it in that area that's away from the wildlife preserve. These were all thoughts that were like, that would be great. So it's thinking about that proactively is where we can put what we call critical equipment. Even though there's a berm, even though we've got a land separation from the roadway to the property, if we can put it elsewhere, that would be preferred.
So where I'm leading to is there a desire or reason that you would continue to expand on the Superfund site beyond it?
We can't. So in terms of building more data centers, so if that's where you're going, can I build more data center on there? I can't. And the reason for that is that Superfund sites, I've got a lot of experience with this, they result in off-gassing, and that becomes massively problematic for the data center itself. So once you go and put that cap on there, you worry about off-gassing up into the actual building itself, and that is very problematic for billions of dollars in computer code. So there's no world in which I can build a data center on
Well,
this.
that's not an issue with generation.
So generators are just literally, they're in an enclosure, they're sitting there, they don't have the same sensitivity whatsoever. So it's a great question.
But still, you have to go get environmental.
Well, absolutely.
And phase one, a letter.
Yeah, you need a phase one ESA, you're going right on the pay. I don't just have to go and say, hey, this is a great idea, this is a nice to have. Yeah, this is, if I can have that, then I would have it. There was somebody, I think jumping in the vest, you had your hand raised and you did, but I want to make sure that I
I was
asked
gonna
you.
ask, why don't you, is it possible that you could use solar panels instead of taking all that energy?
So it's a really interesting question, we get this often. So solar doesn't generate enough capacity without massive amounts of that, but so I almost feel like, and I'm not playing the audience, like maybe you've been hanging out, or I didn't know you were hanging out, listening to my conversation a little bit. is that data centers are evolving in the way that they use power. So I'm trying to warn everybody that there's two forms of power, there's AC power and DC power. DC power is what's generated from solar plants. We're getting into a world in which the computers require so much power that I can't use AC, which is what you have in your house. That's what your plugs give off. I need a more concentrated form of power, which is DC. So one of the potential thoughts, and there was a previous plan that was looked at for the Superfund site, was to put solar panels across that area. We haven't done any work on that at all. And again, I'm not playing to the audience, because you don't put solar panels necessarily where there's a lot of migratory birds. I know my home a little bit. So in that realm, there is a world in which solar can be built into a data center, but it's going to be incremental. It's part of what we call a mix. Because what's the biggest problem with solar? When the sun's not out, we don't have power. And when we heard that the computers, like, you're not going to be happy if you're doing something in the middle of the night work and all of a sudden it's out there because there wasn't any more energy. It's a balance. So solar would feed into a mix of other generation sources. It doesn't appear that that site is the best candidate for it, but we haven't done research yet. But that's a fair answer.
You should look into it, because DTE now offers a rider rating program that works with companies, manufacturers, that actually will purchase that over excess energy that you generate.
Correct.
And then you could use that in the summer, in the winter time.
So instead
of using too much power from DTE, hiring everybody's bills, adding all these extra cents to our kilowatts.
Sure.
You could just generate your own energy, like you were saying you wish you could have. That's the way you can do it.
So you're not wrong at all, but that's called as a power purchase agreement, so it's an actual structure. And the thought process could be, again, we'll go back to the gentleman that asked about the Superfund site, is that can be an area where instead of solar, you can do natural gas generation, potentially. So generating the own power process and an asset that can be owned by DTE that serves this community, that's viable. There are things like that. So we do look at how do we augment, and we have other markets that we work in where these are the conversations that we're having. So I'm very much aligned.
Yeah, I specialize in PPA power purchase.
There you go, okay, so, but then you can negotiate my next one. So like, come work with me. There you go. Either I wore everybody out, or it's just late, are we, anybody else? Doesn't look like there's anybody raising a hand, anybody else? It's 30 minutes before we're supposed to be done, but I'll hang out. If anybody wants to talk at all, I'm good. So there was water, there's food, please help yourself. I just want to thank everybody for your time. So I know time is hard.
So,